Rising fuel prices, tighter legislation, and growing environmental concerns means that finding a viable alternative fuel for use in commercial vehicles is becoming an increasingly important and urgent issue. That's why Alltruck caught up with Martin Flach, Product Director for Iveco in the UK, to ask him why Iveco believe that gas is currently the most viable alternative fuel, what the benefits of gas-powered commercial vehicles are, and what type of operation it is most suited to. Having worked in the truck industry for 35 years and over 10 years with gas vehicles, Martin is a leading authority in this field, so we met up with him hoping his expertise would shed some more light on the issue.
Gas vehicle technology has been around since the early days of motor vehicles, and we all remember from Dad's Army the vehicle that Corporal Jones drove with a big balloon over the top of the van. Now that vehicle was running on gas, it was town gas, it was at very low pressure, but the technology of using gas in a spark ignition engine has been around for many years. In the recent past, Iveco started seriously working on current generation gas vehicles in the mid-1990s, and we've been actively selling gas vehicles throughout Europe since the late 1990s. The alternative fuels which exist other than gas vehicles, we can use biodiesels. Now, current generation biodiesels are not far removed from cooking oil, and they're not stable enough for use in very high pressure current diesel engine technology. We're running injection pressures now up in the region of 1800 to 2200 bar. Now, that's a huge pressure. You need a very stable fuel. The fossil-based diesel fuels are very stable. The biofuels from cooking oil are not stable enough, and you end up with problems in the life of the vehicle. Moving on for the future, there are now some companies producing what will be referred to as second generation biodiesels, which are far more sophisticated hydrocarbon chains, more compatible and interchangeable with the fossil diesel fuels. These fuels offer great potential and certainly will have a place to play in the market, but they're still a few years away before we see any volume available on the market. Really about what's available today. Today, gas-powered vehicles can give a great benefit for the environment, for nitrous oxides, particulates and CO2. In the future, we'll have biodiesels, which will be a very good choice as well, and we have today available electrics and hybrids, but the electrics and hybrids are not cost effective at the moment. They're still very expensive, and so it's some way before we'll be in a position that they can be the right choice. So we see gas vehicles as today's solution for improving the environment. Gas-powered vehicles really are most suitable for operations where the vehicle goes out and back to the depot in the day. We don't in the UK have a national infrastructure on gas yet. Maybe things are moving in the future, but today you need to be looking at an operation where you go out and come back. Back to base is really suited because with infrastructure on your base, you can be sure you can go out in the morning with a full tank of gas and you get back home in the evening. The best types of operation which work on gas tend to be those for inner city distribution, regional distribution, where the daily mileage is relatively contained. From the Iveco point of view, we see the main benefit today for the urban environment and for distribution, maybe for refuse, for stop-start deliveries. That type of operation is where we see the main market at the moment. From the vehicle point of view, methane is methane is methane. It's CH4. Very simple. The methane can come from a fossil source, or it can come from a more modern biosource, which can be a landfill, or it can be an anaerobic digestion process. Both of them are taking biodegradable material, and over a period of time, the process produces methane. That methane can be trapped, it can be cleaned, and it is a very, very good vehicle fuel. The benefits for the customer are, first of all, the vehicle is much quieter, so you have the opportunity to discuss the chance of doing nighttime deliveries. So from the driver's point of view, it's quieter and more relaxing to drive. From the accountant's point of view, the vehicle will be cheaper to operate. the cost of the gas is significantly lower than the cost of diesel fuel. From the environmental point of view, a gas vehicle will have NOx and particulate emissions which today are better than the forthcoming Euro 6 requirements. The CO2, if you're using fossil gas, will be better from a well-to-wheel than on a diesel vehicle, but if you use biomethane, then the CO2 can be absolutely fantastically low. The well-to-wheel CO2 for a biomethane vehicle can be better than an electric vehicle using grid electricity. When we look at gas vehicles particularly, we need to consider not just the emissions from the tailpipe, because the tailpipe emissions for carbon won't be very different to the tailpipe emissions from a diesel vehicle. We have to look at the overall environmental impact, and the expression used is well-to-wheel. Now, well-to-wheel is just simply saying that from taking the fossil fuel source out of the ground to the tailpipe emissions, what is the total carbon footprint of that product? So from extraction, through refining, through transport, through distribution, and through actually combustion in the vehicle. And with a gas vehicle, the well-to-wheel will always be better than a diesel vehicle. We see for the future that gas-powered technology is one of a suite of technologies which will be part of the answer for transport as we move forward towards the low-carbon economy. In the short term, when we go to Euro 6, diesel vehicles will become a lot more expensive, whereas gas vehicles, because they already meet the Euro 6 emissions requirements, may have a small increase in price to meet some of the fine detail of Euro 6, but essentially the price will remain the same. So the difference between the two will start to reduce and they'll become more competitive from an initial cost point of view. As the infrastructure develops, there will also be a better residual value for a gas vehicle. We're in a very exciting time at the moment that the government and the Department for Transport, they've recognised that gas vehicles are a part of the answer and are now actively starting to make, albeit small steps, they're making steps towards stimulating the economy for a gas vehicle. This year there are going to be some government funds available towards filling stations, the infrastructure. And this is very important because rather than subsidise a vehicle, put infrastructure in and we have legacy for the future.